welcome to another special episode of Extra Time with Girls on the Ball, taking a deeper dive into the Under-17 FIFA Women's World Cup. And this content is supported by Xero. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Right, welcome back to another one of our special episodes that we are producing with Xero off the back of the Under-17 FIFA Women's World Cup in the Dominican Republic. We're obviously not there anymore, very sadly. But if you missed our first one, which was a chat about data analysis, the technical support group, the technical study group that FIFA have over there, and all the work they're doing around the pitch, which was super interesting. I promise you, it was so good, wasn't it?
It was really, really good.
Really enjoyed.
Really fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to learn more as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed researching that one and putting that episode together. So if you've missed it, when you've finished listening to this one, go back and listen to that one and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you thought about it. Did you know all of that? Did we bring something interesting and different? Did you learn something? We'd love to know because we certainly did. In this episode, we are diving into female coaching. And as part of their investment in women's football, Xero is supporting the increase in female coaches as role models in the game. And through FIFA, they are supporting over 40 coach education scholarships for female coaches in their key regions. So we thought, as part of our working with Xero, made so much sense to go and chat to some of the female coaches at the tournament, find out a little bit about their journey. And what we thought was really interesting was that at this age group, at the Under-17 World Cup, 8 of the 16 team coaches are female. And if you compare that to, say, the Senior World Cup, 12 of the 32 coaches were female. So, you know, if you're going to look at that, you hopefully draw from that things are improving, you know, at youth levels. And then as the years go on and the coaching goes on in the higher levels, it will improve. At least we hope it goes that way. But yeah, so we had some really interesting chats. Wasn't it good?
We did, yes. 3 brilliant coaches who are, you know, starting at the under-17 level or have, you know, worked in lower levels, lower age groups as well. And for them, this is just as big a thing as it is for their players, I think, in terms of being able to be put on a world stage and have that experience in a tournament like a World Cup, which means so much and has so much weight on it. You know, learning how to deal with short turnarounds, learning how to, you know, basically manage 23, 16, 17-year-olds. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, and I think it's really interesting to learn more about all of their journeys, but also learn more about what's needed to be involved in a tournament like this.
And like combining our 2 episodes together, learning about all of the new tools and tech that are available to you at major tournaments that they might not have experienced before. So it was really interesting chatting to them about it. First up is Katie Schoepfer. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She is the coach of the USA Under-17s national team. Formerly a professional player as well, playing for the likes of Sky Blue and Boston Breakers. And she was coaching the Under-15s US girls team before this role, which she took on last year. So we had a chat to her about how she got into coaching, her experiences so far, and what it's like being part of the incredible beast that is the US Soccer Federation. Here's what she had to say.
Thank you so much for sitting down, taking the time during the tournament, of course, to talk to us. You were formerly under-15s coach, now you're under-17s coach. What has been the main differences for you between those 2 sides and making that move?
Yeah, it's interesting. At U15, you're getting in a lot of, you're getting 14-year-old kids in. So you need to teach them a lot about the off-the-field stuff and the importance of, you know, taking care of themselves in the training room, nutrition, hydration. Whereas with the 17s now, it's a little bit more about beyond the field, the tactics, helping them manage pressure. They're making these big life decisions about college. Are they going to go pro, or are they signing this contract? So you're talking to these mini adults, whereas, you know, 15s, they're so just excited about things and so eager to learn. And then 17s, they start to have some real big life decisions coming up. So it's helping them kind of in different ways.
You were, of course, a player for the likes of Sky Blue and Boston Breakers. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little more about that transition into coaching?
Yeah, my dad was a college basketball coach, so I always knew that coaching was going to be something I was going to want to do. And it honestly started as just a side job when I was playing pro, because obviously when I was playing, we did not make enough money to live all the time. So you had to do something else. And it was easy to just do private lessons or coach this team or do go to this camp and coach. And I just started to find my voice with it and started to really enjoy watching the development of kids grow and learn and see them just love playing and help facilitate that. So then I just kept saying yes to opportunities. So as my playing career started to come to an end, I had opportunities to coach in the collegiate ranks and then club, and then connected with some old friends to get into the national team system as an assistant coach, and started getting my licenses and going through the scouting, and it all just kind of worked out of just continuing to say yes to opportunities, and here I am.
What kind of support did you get? Did you lean on mentors? Like, what kind of networks did you create to help you?
Yeah, I have a couple. It was really old coaches that I had, and it all comes full circle. Like Lisa Cole was my coach from when I was really young, and now she's working with our women. Tracy Kevins was one of the first people to step in and have me come in as an assistant for camps, and now she's our technical director on the women's youth side. So it's all come full circle, having these especially female coaches that I personally had. Erica Dombach at Penn State, she was my college coach, so I lean on her a lot to ask questions about how she did things or what it was like for her. And so it's nice to have that system to be able to ask them, what it was like going through some of these situations.
It's quite a common theme, I think, where current coaches see something in potential coaches. Do you see that now as a coach? Do you kind of have people around you where you think maybe, actually you could maybe give them an opportunity? Yeah,
I think so. I think we try to do it, especially with our assistant coaches when we bring them into camp, and making sure that we're giving opportunities, not just ones that have these great resumes and super experience, but ones that we can see potential with, that want to learn and grow and are getting better every single camp. It's just like the players, right? That every time you come into camp, we're going to do things a little bit differently. You have to learn a new type of build that we're going to do, but you have to have that open mindset to do it. So I think bringing in assistant coaches that really embrace that, and then hopefully kind of helping them we've had a bunch of assistant coaches that have come in and moved on into NWSL clubs, which is amazing to see, because they get the experience in here, realize they want more, and then move away from the youth clubs and go into NWSL clubs and have really successful coaching careers, which tough for us because we lose them as assistants, but amazing for them that they're able to find that.
Yeah. Is there any coach maybe on the international field or maybe domestically that has inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot growing up, being from Connecticut, Tony DeCicco was a coach that I played for the Breakers, but also obviously watching the 99ers, I think is for women my generation was just a massive inspiration to get soccer going in the United States. And the fact that I played for him, for me, was crazy. And he taught me a lot of lessons. And I think just growing up through the youth game, I was very fortunate that I had a lot of coaches that saw a lot in me and really showed me what it's like to have selfless leadership, to, make sure I got extra training, or would check in on me, or would help teach me. So, my high school coach taught me how to do interviews with the newspaper, because I got interviewed all the time. And so being a 13, 14-year-old kid, that could be really terrifying, but he took the time to sit and talk with me, how to sign autographs, just silly things like that you don't think mean anything at the time. But then later on in your life, you're like, oh, this actually did make a difference.
It's quite interesting. 8 of the 16 coaches at this tournament are female, versus 12 of the 32 coaches at the Senior World Cup last year. So hopefully that's a trend, right? That we're getting more female coaches into the game from youth level up.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, it's hard to want to be it if you never see it. So, we talk to these girls all the time about not every single one of them they're not all going to be Alex Morgan one day, but can we inspire the next generation of that? But there also might be the next best coach in here. There might be the next best female referee. And I think the more representation we get, and the more that these girls that play for our youth national team system see that, the more of the norm it becomes for them. And then they understand that that's a path as well, that it's not always just, I need to be a soccer player, but you can also be a coach, a trainer, a doctor, a referee, EQ, there's so many positions that you can fill, that it's not just being a soccer player is the female job.
And how much has an environment like this, a World Cup, I guess it's a steep learning curve as a coach, right? Because it's not just what happens on the pitch. You've got a short turnaround, you've got all the analysis coming in. We did a kind of a tour with the FIFA analysis team to see everything that's on offer and what you get afterwards. And I guess, how much you have to ingest. What is it like for you as a coach being in an environment like that?
Yeah, it's honestly something you can't prepare for. You just gotta have to go through it to learn it, and it's a lot of different. It definitely makes you realize areas that you like. It made me realize areas I want to grow in and things that I want to get better at. But also, it really just shows you who you are and shows you who you are in really stressful moments and in really good moments, and it just teaches you a lot, especially. For us with a staff, for the youth side, having a staff of 40 is so unique. And then having to lead that for kind of the first time is always daunting. So it's daunting off the field. And then obviously on the field, you just want your team to do well and you want it so bad for the girls. So it's a little bit of stress on both sides, but all good stress because I think it's teaching just how to manage these kinds of situations. And then every year you do it, you get a little bit better.
I guess you touched on that, a staff of 40, which is incredible. What's it like being, the US national team is renowned in women's soccer.
Yeah.
I have to say soccer, but it's renowned around the world, right?
Yeah.
So what is it like being part of that big, I guess, organization?
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember being 11 years old and watching the 99ers play. I know where I was, I know what I was doing, sitting and watching that game go. And that was so influential on me. And then growing up and then obviously playing for the Boston Breakers, I knew Christine Lilly and I've worked camps with Mia Hamm and I can have those conversations. So it's just been so amazing, the federation in general, how it shaped me as a female soccer player there as a kid at a really young age. My first jersey was a Mia Hamm jersey. And then now to be able to represent the crest, I've played for our youth system. I've been in their shoes before, not at a World Cup. I've been in their shoes in terms of being in a camp and what that feels like. And, it hopefully it inspires me to put on the crest. And then it's my goal to inspire them the way that I love working for U.S. soccer and being around it. And then obviously for these kids, hoping I can kind of instill that passion for representing their country.
And what was it like for you as a coach, stepping out, like having the team line up, sing the anthem for the first time at the World Cup for you? What did it feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Some of these kids I've known since they were 14, and we've had our first youth national team. My very first U15 camp, I had some of these kids in for their very first youth national team camp. So we've done a lot of growing together in the last 2 years. And it's pretty amazing to see, just think in 2 short years, we had kids that are all playing club soccer. And now we have pros in here and we have kids that have reclassified and gone to college early. And they're not just playing and participating, but they're contributing to their pro teams and their college teams. And this age group has really become a good inspiration to the younger age groups that are coming up, because they can look at this age group and see when you kind of dedicate and commit to what you want to be and put yourself in those situations to be uncomfortable and to grow, where you can go with it and you can start to achieve your dreams.
It must be pretty cool to be at the cusp of these players' journeys, I guess. They're dreaming big about, maybe playing for the national team, senior national team, and you're there shaping them right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's just been so cool to watch. I mean, because like I said, at the end of the day, they still, when you hear them talk or you see them with each other, they're 16-year-old kids still. And so they're still fun and youthful and energetic, and they just want to do a good job. And so it's so fun to support them and watch them grow. So fun to turn on my TV. And when, Angel City's on and Kennedy pops on TV, I can see if she's starting and I get to watch her play. Or, when San Diego's on and you watch Mel and Kimmy play, it's fun to see them living out their dreams and being there to support in the background and tell them, hey, it's okay if it's not perfect right now. You're still 16, you're still 17, have fun, be a kid, enjoy what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, they're playing a game and we have to keep that in perspective for them as well.
Sure. How much was the Olympic win this summer an inspiration for all of you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're not deaf. We hear the narratives of everybody saying that, U.S. soccer is not what it used to be and everyone's catching up, which it's true. And that's good. That means that women's soccer around the world is getting better and more people are investing in it. And there's more eyes on that, which is amazing. And it should be like that. You shouldn't go through tournaments winning every single time. And I think going into the Olympics, it's obviously a goal for us we always want to come out on top, especially our women. Like that's what we do and what we want to do. But seeing them be able to come together as a group in such short notice in terms of Emma's turnaround and how many camps she had and how she's getting the group together and her getting them to buy in and enjoy it. And they've been great about sending messages. Like Emma recorded a video for us and they had some of her staff were in here meeting the girls and just hanging out. And so I think it's that connection to the women's team just makes it real for these kids that they're not that far off and they're not that far away from that being them one day. So it's fun to be able to show them that they're that close.
Yeah, I bet. And finally, what advice would you give young women, or not even young women, people maybe turning to coaching later in their career? What advice would you give them?
It's hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach. And just because you're maybe not a great player doesn't mean you're going to be a bad coach. Like there's so much learning you have to do, and you're going to keep learning. I mean, I'm still asking a ton of questions all the time. I don't know everything, but at the end of the day, being a coach is being in the people business, and you're there to help inspire, and you're there to help motivate, especially when you're coaching young people and for me, coaching young women, they always have so many confidence issues or so many self-doubt that it's my job to just keep pushing them to see what I see in them and help them believe in themselves and give them this amazing platform to perform in a really safe place that if they fail, it's okay. And we'll pick them up, help them dust them off, and then we help them try again. But I think with coaching, that's what it's about, is it's about people and how you take care of them and how you help them believe in themselves and believe in the mission that you're putting out there. And tactics will always be there. And you'll always learn like X's and O's and how you roll, like what you want to roll out with soccer balls. But taking care of people is the most important thing.
Love that.
Great for hearing from her. I thought she spoke really well. And I particularly enjoyed how she spoke about the growth of these players, like not just on the pitch, but off it too. That seemed to be something she was really passionate about being involved in.
I think it's something you forget. You see like these tournaments in isolation, but actually there's a whole program that goes into this, and certainly with Katie and with Nat as well, they've worked with this group of girls for a long time in terms of leading up to this point. You know, I think when I spoke to Layla Harbert of England, she said she's been working with Natalie Henderson for the last 3 years. So, you know, there's a whole program in place, and it's not just like a flash in the pan, you're there for a year or you're there for a tournament. It's a whole development piece in place, and these coaches are involved at every level of that.
And there's also there's so many different parts to what makes a good coach, and obviously wanting your players to do well is a big part of that. But I think something that's unique to these three coaches that we spoke to is their real passion for developing young talent. Because all of these coaches are right at the forefront of these players' potential long-term professional careers, and they're helping to shape that. And it was a kind of thread that I picked up from all three coaches. And next up, Sophie, you spoke to England's very own coach, Natalie Henderson. Now, she previously coached at Newcastle Football Club's academy, and she spoke to you about how she always knew she wanted to be a coach, which I thought was really nice because, of course, more often than not, they start playing or they were formerly a player. But and while Nat did play for a bit, it was very clear that she always wanted to be a coach. So I think, I'm sure a dream for her to be doing this on the world stage. And here's what she said to Sophie.
Hey Nat, thanks for talking to us today. I'm here at the Under-17 World Cup, and it's been quite an experience so far for you, I can imagine. How's it been for you as a coach and as a person, I guess?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I think I was excited coming into this tournament, excited for staff and players to experience it. I think so far we've had different challenges thrown at us from a football perspective, and also an off-pitch perspective in terms of some weather and things like that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my time here. I love being on camp and being with the team and being around the staff and players, as well as the experience of international football and pressure and tournaments. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Has it been different to what you expected?
I don't think so. I think the games have been slightly different to what I've expected. Certainly the one last night was very different to what I had planned for in my head. But I think, again, I love being on camp. I love it when the team are together. We create some really good memories in this team, and we're constantly striving to be better all the time as individuals and as a team. So I enjoy being around that every day in terms of high performance and trying to get better. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
You've been on quite a journey so far as a coach. Has this been the highlight so far?
I think so, yeah. I think it definitely has. I've been very fortunate in my coaching journey to have many different experiences and coach at different levels with male and female footballers and professional and community. So I think, yeah, I've enjoyed my coaching journey a lot, but this certainly is a highlight. Being in the Dominican Republic in a World Cup is pretty exciting. So yeah, I'd say it's the best so far.
Pretty special, hey?
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you got into coaching. Did you always know you wanted to be a coach?
Yeah, I think really from a young age, my dad is a huge football fan. So the minute I was born, I was going to enjoy football and play football. So I played football from a young age, was very injury prone, but always knew I wanted to be a coach. So even from a young age, I never grew up thinking I want to be a footballer. I always grew up thinking I want to be a football coach. So as soon as I was able to get my coaching qualifications, I started them really early. Started volunteering coaching when I was 14. So I've been coaching for a long time now. But yeah, I always knew I wanted to be a coach and absolutely love what I do. So.
Is there anyone in particular that helped you along that journey, kind of mentor, any other coaches?
Yeah, I think when I was really young, I had a female coach called Lisa Bell who was at Newcastle United, and I always used to look at her, and she was one of the only female coaches at the time. I used to look at her and think, I want your job when I'm older. So she really inspired me to do what I do. And then I had another female coach, Mel Ray, who was the Sunderland manager, and she was the same. I always used to look at her and think I'd like to be as good as her as a coach. So I was certainly inspired by those two people, but I was also inspired by male coaches, and there was certainly people from a young age that I would look at and think, I really want to do what you do, or I maybe want to do something not how you do, because you often learn from how not to do things as well. So yeah, I think there's been many people that have inspired me along the way, and my family have always been really supportive and inspiring as well. So yeah, I try and take a little bit from everyone and add it to what I can do and just keep trying to get better, really.
Sure. And you spent quite a lot of time at Newcastle as well, in the academy. What kind of were the biggest things that you learned during that time?
Yeah, I learned so much at the academy. I think certainly working with youth players that want to be at the top of their game, I think, and the whole holistic approach around it's not just the football on the pitch, it's everything that matters off the pitch, whether that's helping them psychologically, helping them physically. I think I learned a lot about myself in that environment, that it's tough being, you'd watch boys go through the academy from 8 years old and then get released at 16, and that's really tough, and it's a ruthless sport, and it's the same for coaches as well. You can lose a few games and lose your job. So I think it certainly taught me a lot about the football world, but again made me even more hungry to stay in the football world and to be in it and to keep getting better. So I think it really helped me.
Sure. And at this World Cup, 8 of the 16 coaches are female. I think compared to the World Cup last year, just 12 of the 32 coaches at the Senior World Cup were female. But that, I guess, shows that there is a developing pathway for young female coaches coming through, that you are getting the opportunities, I guess, to develop and move up through the ranks.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think, like I just said, there was 2 female coaches that inspired me when I was young and made me look up and think that's what I want to do and that's what I want to be. So I think it's important that females get these opportunities and these coaching positions. But I also think it's important that we get the right person in the right position as well. And if that's a male coach, then I think that's also right. So I'm all for trying to increase the female coaches as long as, they are the right people in the right positions. But I think it's exciting and heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's about opportunity and accessibility, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Of course, you're now at the FA. You've been there a couple of years. What's it like being a part of the setup that, have invested so much in the women's game?
Yeah, it's next level, to be honest. I think going from club football and the men's game to then moving to international football and the women's game was a big change for me to get my head around and to flick between the two, because they're very different. But I think the money that the FA are putting into the women's game, the resources that they're putting in, just shows the direction we want to go in and shows how big we want to make it. And I think it's in a really exciting place. I think the pathway for these young female footballers is super exciting. I always look and think, if I had that when I was young, I would be so grateful for it. And we used to bagpack in Asda to raise money for our strips. And I remind the girls of that now. They turn up and they get the free Lucozade and free football boots. It's come a long way, and it's only going to get better. So I think the girls should be really grateful for that and remind themselves of how fortunate they are. But I also think the FA are doing an excellent job at increasing the women's game and the exposure to it and the players in it and the quality of it in general.
What has been your biggest learning in the last 3 years while you've been the national team?
Oh, that's a huge question. I've learned a lot, I think. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about, like I said, the football world. I think the fortunate thing with the FA is you're exposed to so many different departments and exposed to so many different people who are at the top of their game, that I try as much as possible to tap into those people and to increase my knowledge and get better in all aspects of football, and also life on and off the pitch. So I think I couldn't pick one thing that I've massively learned. I think I'm learning every day, and always can be better. And I think that the FA and the culture and environment we have allows you to be able to do that and to get better every day. So yeah, not one thing.
Lots and lots of things.
Yeah.
I guess there is that difference between the national and kind of domestic game as well, and maybe being in the national pathway gives you that experience, that opportunity, I guess, to go and talk to different people and learn a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that excited me when I first got the job at the FA, is you get to go into different clubs and watch different games and find out how clubs do things and what their programmes look like, and that all helps me and increases my knowledge, but more importantly it helps what I can then do with the players when they get on camp, and having an understanding of what their club football looks like and then how we can maximise that when being on camp. So yeah, I think that's been a real bonus, and again very different to club football. I think the other thing is you get to take a step back. So club football, you're pretty much on the roller coaster, it's game after game, you don't get a lot of time to step back and analyse and reflect or plan, whereas international football we get a lot of time to plan, to step back and to analyse, and then we come on camp and we're on the relentless roller coaster, but then we step back again and breathe again. And I think those moments are nice to allow you to keep getting better and reflect and unpick things. So I think that's a benefit of it as well.
For sure. We often talk at the World Cup about the players and what it feels like for them to step over the line, sing the national anthem and all of that. But when you, on the first game, how were you feeling on that touchline when the players walked out and the national anthem played?
Yeah, again, I think it's hard. I think you almost are so much in the zone as a manager, and you're just thinking around how focused you are on the task that sometimes you can forget to take in those moments, and it's something I try really hard to not do. I try to make sure I have those pinch me moments and those gratitude moments, and I say it to the staff, like, we're living the dream and we must remember that. And I often think back to myself as a young girl, and I thought about it the other day on the bus on the way to the games. If I could tell myself as a young girl I was coming here as a head coach of an England team in the World Cup, I'd be pretty excited by that. So I try to have those moments as much as possible. And there's no greater feeling of pride than standing singing the national anthem, and watching the girls sing the national anthem. I think that's the bit I enjoy about it the most, is watching those players sing it and the pride in their faces, and knowing that we're giving them an opportunity to go and be them and show what they can do on the pitch is really the bit that gets me, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very special environment to be in. I guess it's all of a learning process for you as well, in terms of match day, what that looks like, off the pitch, what that looks like. When you go home, I guess you'll take all of those learnings with you to be able to put into the next. I know football is relentless, isn't it? So the next cycle.
Yeah, and I think that's something, certainly myself personally, is I'm really big on reflecting, and I guess always wanting to be better and nitpicking at things, and being, I think as coaches we can become perfectionists. We want everything to be perfect, and I think there's a danger to that, but I also think that there's a real good high performance aspect to that. So I think we try and reflect as we go on camp and unpick things and get better, but certainly when you go home and you reflect on the whole process, you take a lot of learnings from it, and you think about how you would do things next time. And I think that's the benefit of the World Cup. We've been to a Euros, we've learned some lessons, we've come here, and hopefully I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. So yeah, we're always learning.
You talked about your dream as a little girl, not being able to maybe believe that you'd be here. But when you think about the future, what are your dreams? I know you're very in the present moment, so maybe that's a hard question.
Yeah, again, it is a hard question. It's one I get asked all the time. I strangely don't have a dream, and I think people used to find it weird that I say this, because people have a dream of, I want to be England manager in the future, or but I always said I never thought I'd work in the men's game. I never thought I'd be in that environment for so long, and then so I just think anything is possible. All I'm focused on is I just want to keep getting better every day. I'm really big on maximising potential. I'm terrified to not unlock the potential that you have in yourself. So I think for me, I just think if I just keep getting better every day, then you never know what opportunities are going to come. And essentially that's what I want to chase. I don't want to chase a title or a position. I just want to keep chasing, getting better every day and seeing where that can take me.
That maybe bleeds into the next question, which is about finding what one piece of advice that you have for maybe young coaches coming through and what you tell them to give them the support coming through.
Yeah, a good question. I think the never stop learning one would be the big one for me. I think we can always learn, and I think the minute you think you know it all as a coach, I think that's a real problem, and that's a comfort zone, and that's complacency, and I have a real thing against complacency. So I think never stop learning, but then I also think knowing yourself. I think I used to look at coaches and think I want to be like that coach and I want to be like this coach, and you can end up changing who you are and not being genuine or authentic. So I think the bit that I always try to look at now is I want to, if I like something a coach is doing, I want to add that to who I am, but I don't want that to change who I am. So I think they would be the big things. Never stop learning, but don't lose who you are and your personality and what you can bring, as opposed to looking at all these other coaches thinking I want to be like them. I think you need to have a bit of both.
I really liked her advice to for aspiring coaches. You know, that idea of there's something about authenticity and how, yes, you can learn from lots of different coaches and lots of different styles and, you know, what you've learned over your career. But at the end of the day, you can't lose yourself in that, which I thought was a really nice point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what really stood out is that for Natalie Henderson, she's very in the moment. She will say that, like, and she does say it very explicitly, that she's very present. And in terms of, like, she's always wanted to be a coach, but it was probably quite surprising when she said she didn't really have a dream job to aim for. She's just kind of like seeing what the process is about and seeing where kind of, I guess, life leads her and life lands. That's kind of what she was implying. And I think that's quite, it's not something you're used to hearing very often. Normally people have a lofty goal of, I don't know, leading the England women, and well, I'm sure she eventually probably wouldn't sniff at that. I think it's quite nice that she's very in the moment, very now. She's very about, you know, she understands that she as a coach has lots to learn. She also understands that her players have a lot to learn, and she's also all about them. She's very player-centred. It's about developing this group of young girls to become the best footballers and people that they can be. And that is where her focus is at the moment.
And I think, I guess, she always wanted to be a coach. So she's living her dream, if you like, and she gets to do that on a world stage. So last but certainly not least, we spoke to New Zealand coach Alana Gunn, and a somewhat different story to, say, a US and an England federation who are so well resourced. For New Zealand, this is an area that's growing. Alana is also the women's talent manager for New Zealand, so she's juggling a couple of roles. So she's really there at the beginning of these players' careers and really helping to shape that. So she was lovely to speak to. Here's what she had to say to me. Thank you so much for sitting down to chat to us. Really excited to hear a little bit about your journey. You're women's talent manager and under-17s coach, right?
Yeah, that's
How did those, especially the first role, how do they kind of align together?
Good question. It's a big role. See, I got employed in January with New Zealand Football, so the first part was obviously establishing the coaching part of it. There was a bit of scouting to be done, and obviously we had under-16 qualifiers to get to, and then this event. So the pathway, I guess I'm a little bit more equipped now to, I guess, start designing our pathway and looking forward for the future, and what that looks like for New Zealand girls. So having experienced the qualifiers in our World Cup, I feel like understand the game in a worldwide approach a little bit better. So that's kind of my next job when I get home.
I guess it's if you're going to do those dual roles, being the under-17s it's like getting into that early journey, being the talent scout as well. It's quite a useful tool.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely align. I think being able to be seen and be present across the country is really important, and I think that implementing something through the federations and clubs that can help grow our talent will kind of be the direction that we head in. But yeah, visibility is so important, and I think there's been a lot of, I guess, uncertainty for players around New Zealand in terms of what is the pathway and how do I achieve my goals, and so hopefully we can start to mend a few build a few bridges there and develop it so it's visible.
How much has hosting a senior World Cup, has that had any kind of influence in terms of,
investment and I guess interest, and young girls then being excited to get involved in the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. It was massive. The World Cup was an amazing event in New Zealand, and the growth of girls football and the legacy that we're kind of rolling out still through the programs. So the Fantail programs for me was, at the time I was in the federation, working in the federation, so and delivered Fantails, and my daughter's was 8, and it was just perfect. The values within that program are outstanding, and the girls that we're starting to see the girls that have been involved in Fantails come through and register with clubs. So the growth of the women's game is on the up in New Zealand, and a lot had to do with the visibility of the World Cup that we hosted last year. So
I bet. You previously coached Canterbury Pride, 6 seasons, successful, a lot of success there as well. Could you tell us maybe a little bit more about your coaching journey?
I played football for a very short time, and did a couple of ACLs when I was young, but always loved being in and around football, so always involved in a club, and it kind of took a couple of years of just being on the sidelines to realise that the resources of the women's game was very minimal, so kind of thought I'd put my hand up and give coaching a crack, and I started coaching a social women's team on a Sunday, which was more of a bit of a laugh than anything. But then my good friend Gareth Turnbull, he was coaching a women's premier team at the time, kind of brought me over to his club, and so I got under his wing, and he, was my really early mentor in terms of, I guess, just driving a standard and getting more females in the coaching space. So he was a really important person in that early development of my coaching journey, and a couple of years in clubland before I kind of got that Canterbury United Pride role, which was a massive step for me. Early success is never a good thing in coaching, but we had the first 3 years, we were lifting titles, but I think in terms of my growth and development definitely happened later in that 6-year tenure, just through, you generally do learn more when you're not being successful, because there's nothing, covering the flaws within your development. So it's been a cool journey. I've been lucky enough to also be involved with New Zealand secondary schools, which has taken me around the world. So lots of travel, which I love, and being able to coach hundreds of young teenage girls, which is my passion.
Amazing. Did you envision yourself when you were standing on the sideline doing that kind of more fun coaching right early on, that you'd be leading an underage team out into a World Cup?
Not at all. I've got a little chat group, and they're like, it all started with us, with who are now friends of some people that I coached probably 10, 12 years ago on a Sunday morning, probably hungover, like playing social women's football. So definitely then wasn't something that I was looking forward to do. I think once I jumped under Gareth's wing and realised that there was massive opportunity, that's when I think, the aspirations to go further began. Yeah.
You touched on that support there. How valuable has that kind of mentorship been? I suppose it's something that other people would maybe not realise they maybe needed to take that extra step in their journey. Yeah,
absolutely. I think coach development is really needed, especially in the female game. So I've had mentors my whole journey, so not just football specific, but my sister plays a massive role in terms of helping me public speak, and all the other things that come with coaching. So that's so important. I guess someone to be able to listen and guide is the ability to get yourself a good mentor that suits your personality and everything like that is massively important.
Is there any coach in particular, whether it be worldwide or maybe more locally, that has inspired you?
I love watching Emma Hayes. I just think her kind of persona and confidence of who she is awesome to see. I was lucky enough when I did play for my region, I was coached by a female coach, which was very rare, but Ali Grant, she played for New Zealand, and she's someone that I've always kind of looked up to in terms of her dedication to the female game when she was involved in it and things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
You touched on female coaches there. What's interesting is 8 of 16 coaches at this tournament are female, but when you compare that to the Senior World Cup last year, it was 12 of 32. So you could maybe look at that and say there is a growth of female coaches, and I guess getting opportunities at these levels is hugely important.
Yeah, it's massive. I think it's so important, and I think what's really important is, I guess for me, this is the first time I've been able to get myself into an environment like this, and the support staff have been immense in terms of being really supportive. We're all new, none of us have ever been to a World Cup before, so I think we're doing a really good job of supporting each other, and I think that's just another mechanism of enabling females to be able to grow in spaces to become better. You need those support networks around you as well.
I imagine it's quite a steep learning curve at an international tournament. We had a chat with some of the FIFA analysts and around the things that they offer teams when they come, and I guess for you come over here, you've got a few days in between games, you've got analysis to deal with, you've got player welfare to deal with, you've got prepping for the next team. It must be a real steep learning curve for you.
Yeah, it's been massive, and I think there's been elements of leading into this, you don't know what you don't know, and then all of a sudden it's in front of you and you've kind of got to find your way. But I think understanding your strengths and weaknesses and ensuring that your support around it is benefiting both. I love being in and around the girls, and I love doing a lot of off-field stuff with them around people's skills and all that sort of stuff. But that also takes away time from the coaching, so ensuring that my coaching staff is on top of that stuff has been massive, and it's been a cool experience, but we're definitely documenting a lot of stuff to make sure we're improving for next year.
I bet. Before we started recording, we touched on your very lengthy journey to get here. How has the team been settling in? And it's obviously, I imagine, a new experience for a lot of people being so far from home.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's 7 girls here that were actually in Fiji a month before we left. So they had 10 days at home post qualifiers. So they spent 4 weeks in Fiji and qualifying for next year's World Cup. So we learned a huge amount around how to occupy 21, 16-year-old girls for an extended period of time when you kind of can't be outside in the heat. So that was a really cool learning to have before this experience. And then when we got over here, it is just about establishing routine and ensuring that everyone's, ensuring that we're healthy and happy. And we've actually been really, really lucky because we've had minimal injuries, minimal illness. So we've managed to keep we've managed to keep the girls pretty happy and pretty healthy. So that's winning so far, I think. Yeah.
We often talk about, the players and this opportunity to represent their country and what a dream it must be stepping out onto the pitch at a World Cup. But for you as a coach, what was it like when the team was lined up and the anthem was playing and you finally kicked off your first game?
Absolutely. And I think, again, just alluding back to the qualifiers and the lessons and the emotions that brought out kind of prepped me a little bit to be able to now do it on the world stage at a World Cup. It's a little surreal. It is a little surreal, but I think my role is for the players, so I think that's something I'll probably reflect and I guess celebrate when I get home. I was really lucky my sister managed to come over and be there for it as well, so that was pretty cool to have her there. So it was a pretty proud moment and something I'm never going to forget.
I bet. Obviously you've come from club coaching into national team coaching, so it's quite different in terms of the amount of time you get to spend with a player, and I guess all of the analysis and all that comes with it. Is there a benefit to, you can go back now, put the tournament to bed when you're finished, and then really get into those learnings and on improving for the next time around?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be massive. I think to be able to go home and actually just spend some time on reflecting in order to know what next year might look like. We're lucky enough to know that we've qualified already, so we can kind of start that preparation phase a little bit, and even just the design of what that 8 months looks like leading into the tournament will look very different to what it did this year, because we were kind of finding our feet this year. So next year there's going to be probably a lot more decisions made around this year, which this year we obviously didn't have last year to do that. So we're looking forward to being able to, I guess, project our learnings into the future.
You've spoken about how it's an exciting time for young girls in New Zealand football now, and you're kind of going to be at almost the forefront of some players' careers where they start their journey and, you know, hopefully progress into senior national level. That's a really exciting thing to be a part of.
Yeah, 100%. To create football ferns or to be a part of anybody's journey is massive, and it's one of my, you know, leading values in my coaching is to ensure that these girls are being the best human being they can be, and the ones that kind of want to project themselves into that senior environment. And helping them install skills that they're going to need for when, you know, they get those opportunities is cool. I find it a privilege. I learn off my experiences every year that I do it, and off my own experiences as a teenager playing football. So yeah, it is. It's a privilege, and it's a cool thing to be able to get to know players on a deep level, get to know families, and understand their stories and understand why they're playing football as well. So yeah, it's cool.
And finally, would you have any advice for, I was going to say young coaches, but maybe that coach who's on the sideline on a Saturday, you know, potentially wanting more? What advice would you have for them? Yeah,
I mean, I think especially as females, we always second guess ourselves, and we always we choose not to do things if we can't apply our whole self. You know, it's a very female trait. I had a baby all through this, so, you know, my daughter's 8, and so there was time away from the game and things like that. But I think if you're passionate about it and you care about the women's game, then get into it, because we need everyone involved. Resources are limited, especially in New Zealand, in the female space. So I guess, yeah, back yourself, fake it till you make it, surround yourself with the right people. And I think, like me, you might surprise yourself on how far you can go.
So nice to hear from her. I really like how she touched on that journey of coaching more casually at the weekend to then coaching, you know, her national federation's under-17s team. That's a real, like, dream bigger moment, right? Like, you know, how she never really thought she'd be at this stage or at a world stage. And I think sometimes we forget that, yes, this is a huge moment for a player, right? And like, this is a massive achievement at the beginning of their career to be at a World Cup. But it's also a dream come true for coaches as well, to be on that world stage, to be involved in the top coaching path. You know, with, of course, an exciting road ahead of them, but to be at a world stage. And, you know, I did do that during the tournament when I was shooting. I kind of glance over at the coaches as the players are coming out or as the anthem was being sung, and you can just sense that pride.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's also really important that we did talk to a coach like from a country like New Zealand. Yes, they've, you know, got a good reputation in women's football, but, you know, the youth pathway has not always been particularly there for them. I think the World Cup last year that they hosted will have done wonders for them, and Alana did mention that, you know, the interest from that has sparked kind of that. But they're very much at the beginning of the journey in terms of developing their kind of pathway through and making it really feasible for girls, you know, teenage girls to come in, think that they can play for their country at under 17s level, and then have that real prospect of going on to the senior national team. And I think that's, as you say, that's the difference where it comes in with like England, who have invested so much in the pathway. And yes, it's still in its early years. We're not there yet. But the resource that they've put in have made this group of young lionesses a really, really good quality. And I think maybe New Zealand is somewhat behind that in kind of the schedule. But the fact that you've got someone like Alana who is working really hard to try and make that happen and try and make that pathway exist and make kind of those dreams for those players come true is really important. And she needs help around her, that's for sure. But like the fact that it's happening and it's there, I think is really interesting to learn about. Yeah, and it's why, you know, investment like from Xero to help invest in grassroots all the way up to national federations is so important to help kind of develop that pathway. We did have a quick chat as well with the Dominican Republic manager right early on when we went over to the tournament. We spoke to her through a translator, through one of her team, who really helpfully translated what we were saying to her and what she was saying to us. But what we really took from our chat with her was the pride that she had in the fact that her country was hosting this major tournament for the first time, and how impactful she thought it was going to be. And she talked to us a little bit about her journey, but I think the kind of excitement and potential for her country and young girls in her country hosting a tournament like this was really evident and really lovely to hear.
Thank you so much for speaking to us today. Can you tell me what it was like last night when your team walked out. First game, hosting a World Cup. It looked like there was a lot of pride on the side of the pitch. How special was that?
Bueno, gracias a ustedes por la entrevista. First of all, thanks for the interview. And it was like a lot of pride, a lot of emotions, the moment the girls walked out and all the crowds being there. And the first time participating in a big tournament, a World Cup, and even in us hosting it, it was really a special moment. It's a big honor to be host and have all the experience like being at home. And also after all of this, the soccer is gonna be to have an impact and on, you know.
So yeah, I think take time to, first of all, to thank all of the federations and coaches for taking the time to talk to us during a major tournament, to sit down with us. Not just like they're used to doing media in a major tournament, right? Normally talking about the tournament, talking about their team and their journey and kind of to progressing to this moment. But to actually get to sit down and talk to these coaches about them was probably slightly different.
I think it's a little unnatural for
Yeah.
them. They don't generally want to talk about themselves, I think. Across the board, coaches, it's more about their players and their teams, especially at this level. So I think to be able to take some precious 10, 15 minutes here and there and really get to understand what drives them and what they're about is really important. When you're looking at, you know, the way the game's growing, you want, you know, a diversity of voices and accessibility to the sport. That comes in all forms. It comes in playing form and finding players and the talent pool of players, but it also comes in coaches, and it's allowing female coaches to have the ability to strive to be the best, to develop their skills at a major tournament like this one. But also that means that doesn't stop here, right? It moves on potentially up the levels to the senior pathway as well, for coaches as well as players. And that's super important.
Yeah, so super inspiring and refreshing to hear from them. And I think some of the key themes in all of those conversations was the importance of mentors, seizing opportunities, being yourself, and the importance of resource investment. Like, that was so evident. And I think that's why this angle tied in so nicely into, you know, us working with Xero and the work that Xero were doing within women's football. It was such a nice kind of story to tell. And we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed this special episode. It's nice to try and explore some other areas off the pitch that are so important to everything that happens on the pitch. And this is the second of our special episodes that we're producing with Xero, off the back of our trip to the Under-17 Women's World Cup in the Dominican Republic. So we've got another one to come. You won't miss that. If everyone together you've subscribed, you won't miss it. And if you're following us across our social media platforms as well, we will be plugging them there too. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back again very soon.